Osmo.com live before lock show. Be taking you through the day's 6-game main slate. There is so much baseball action here around the clock on the Osmo YouTube channel, and we're thrilled to be a part of it. I'm Chris Spags, joined by my pal, my Wednesday buddy this week, the baseball savant, the very snack-like Jake Hari. How are you doing, Jake?
Yeah, man, I'm doing well. You're on double duty today, so I don't know. I have a feeling you're gonna have a better show in your second live before lock than your first one, right?
One would hope so. One would hope that the practice would only lead to me getting better, but more likely I'm just going to be delirious by the end of the show. Be recommending Edwin Jackson, lock him in.
Yeah, gotta lock in Edwin Jackson tonight.
If you want leverage, Jake, we talk a lot about leverage on this show. That is the most leverage going to Edwin Jackson today, but we'll be talking about actual things throughout the course of this hour, not just things that Jake and I are making up to amuse ourselves, because we do have all these games to talk about. We also have one big giveaway going on right now, technically our biggest giveaway ever. Right now, if you go to the @Osmo_com Twitter handle, in honor of debuting our season-long fantasy football projections and rankings from the #1 DFS player in the world, we're having our biggest giveaway ever. All you have to do is retweet, like, and reply with a player who stands out in Osmo's first NFL season-long rankings. They're up there now on the site now. You can check them out for free. So go to the site, check them out, reply to that pinned tweet on the @Osmo_com Twitter handle. So we're giving away 10 Osmo Plus memberships to random winners. You don't have to be right or anything. You don't have to say anything smart. You could say something really dumb, honestly, if you feel the need to. Whatever you do, just point out an observation from the rankings. Go to the @Osmo_com Twitter handle right now and get in there to join in on the fun. And Jake, one other plug too, which I think I'll throw to you too for this, but it is a show that we are sponsored by FantasyDraft here on Live Before Lock. So we appreciate them very much because they are the home of Rake-free Daily Fantasy Sports. Rake-free Daily Fantasy is here, and it's only available on FantasyDraft. Now you can play your favorite contests rake-free on FantasyDraft, where 100% of the entry fees are paid to the winners. For limited time only, FantasyDraft is offering a free 7-day trial on your first $1,000 on rake-free entries. So right now, don't wait a second. You do the Osmo_com Twitter handle thing after this. Go to FantasyDraft.com right now and use the promo code OSMO. You get 7 days free. $1,000 of your first entry is completely rake-free with no membership fees or anything like that. So go check it out now at FantasyDraft.com. And Jake, what is the appeal of rake-free daily fantasy?
Yeah, so I pulled up. I actually haven't visited this page yet on FantasyDraft, so I pulled it up for you guys, and basically just shows the amount of winning players when you compare rake-free daily fantasy to like the standard 15 or 16% rake. So pretty cool graphic here. Basically, what rake-free fantasy is going to do is just help you become have a better long-term ROI, and FantasyDraft will actually track this for you, how much money you're going to be saving each day when you enter their contest rate free. You pay a flat rate each month, and it's just really good for your long-term ROI. So really, at this point, no reason to not be getting in these rake-free contests. And then, of course, I got to mention the NFL contests coming up in a few weeks on FantasyDraft look quite tasty.
Yeah, a lot of big contests coming up on Fantasy Draft. So go right now to FantasyDraft.com and use that promo code OSMO for your first 7 days rake-free. And yes, Rake, as Jake mentioned, Rake is the little goblin who takes away your winnings. Even if you are killing it, you're losing a good 15%, sometimes more, sometimes less, depending upon the site and the tournament that you're in. And that is not the case at Fantasy Draft. So we appreciate them sponsoring. And you guys should be aware, hopefully, the more that you know about these things, the better you'll be in terms of being a profitable DFS player. Speaking of being profitable, Jake, one approach here that's going to have us being profitable today is somebody in the premium Slack. Is that a dead deer on the floor behind you? That is a dog. That is a yellow Labrador dog. But, not a dead deer. But yes, let's talk about Clayton Kershaw, Jake. He's going to be the top option today, it looks like, on most of the sites. He's gone up throughout the day. He's in a spot where I would say it's about as safe as it looks like it can be for Miami. Even though Miami, I think anecdotally, you can say they've had a penchant for blowing up top-owned pitchers on a slate. I find it hard to see a reason here to not go to Clayton Kershaw. The only guy I think is even a decent hitter against lefties in this lineup is John Birdie, and he's not somebody I'm terribly worried about. You're not usually going to be bouncing your grandchildren on your knee talking about the day that you didn't play Clayton Kershaw because of John Birdie's big day. So what are you doing here, Jake? Are you going to be with the field on the high ownership for Clayton Kershaw?
Yeah, I'm actually over right now. So we've got him a little bit over 30% on DraftKings, and I'm getting closer to double that. Just a phenomenal matchup, as you mentioned, Chris. Not a lot of guys that you're worried about in this Marlins lineup, and Kershaw's just been pretty steady. So, the price tag in isolation isn't great, almost $12K for any pitcher, but he's just been really solid, and he's in a great park. So as quote unquote safe an option as you can ever have with the guy with a 3.3 implied total against him in Alex's projections. That's about as low a total as you're going to see all season. So tons of respect here going to Kershaw, and then just with how the slate sets up, you can pay up for at least one of your pitcher spots here. So he's my guy at 11-8 tonight.
Yeah, I'm with you on there. The value projection that we have for him still looks strong, and I'm willing to pay that premium price because I really just don't see a way he blows up. He's been pitching deeper into games, going about 6.3 innings so far over the last year and change into games, and that's an improvement for him. And the strikeout matchup, not the greatest one, but gets a little better having Hassan Diaz in there. Also, Eliezer Hernandez has been striking out at a 50% clip, so there are some easy Ks for him to get here. He's been more competent in terms of strikeouts as well this year, up to a 25.4% K rate, a low 1 whip. I think Kershaw's been about as steady as you can get. And on this slate, too, in particular, like I really have some questions about Nola, who we'll talk about in a second, and I don't really have those questions with Kershaw. So just, I guess, a teaser for your Nola ownership. You're more on the field with Kershaw than you are with Nola?
Yeah, right now, the crunch I did before this, which, I mean, had everything in it, so it'll change a little bit based on ownership, but was getting quite a bit below the field on Nola, about half of where he was at on DraftKings. I mean, a better price for Nola, obviously, but I don't see myself needing to use all that extra money, and we just have Kershaw as such a better option if you look at the projections, which actually are free today. I just found out earlier. So if you go on Twitter, you can see that we give away a piece of free content each day that's usually premium. I believe you can use those projections today. So go check those out if you haven't already. But we just have Kershaw with a solid value. And like I said, I don't really need to take a 10K pitcher against a Cubs team that is really tough. Castellanos in that lineup makes them even tougher. And then Happ's hitting well down at the bottom of the order. We know Schwarber can hit righties. So just not a lot of holes in this Cubs lineup, like the complete opposite of what you've got here with the Marlins.
Yeah, that's where it shakes out for me too. This Cubs lineup, as you mentioned, only one hitter in this lineup besides the pitcher is under a 90 WRC plus. Actually, only one guy under a 109 WRC plus. That's Victor Caratini down in the 8 hole, who has an 85 versus righties. Everybody else here above, Tony Kemp now in that leadoff spot is a 104 guy. But everybody there above league average in terms of hitting. And yeah, there could be some strikeouts there, I guess. And, Nola's has been decent, has been better technically than Kershaw in terms of getting strikeouts with a 27% K rate on the year. It's just not a spot I feel comfortable with. The park, too, can be a park upgrade for Chicago, theoretically. It's a humid day there. Like, there's a lot of things to me going against Nola where, look, maybe Kershaw gets blown up. We have seen Miami do it. Would it be the most shocking thing in the world based on what we know of MLB DFS? Probably not. But I think if I had to stake my life on it, I'd be more comfortable staking my life on Kershaw. That's a really dark way to go for this for a 6.
Yeah, we're staking lives. Yeah, I mean, shouldn't be playing daily fantasy with money that's going to cost you your life. But I guess if I had to do that the same way that you just mentioned, I would also go with Kershaw for my life.
Yeah, it's just, in terms of security, it just feels like a safer play. Like if I were playing cash today, I would certainly be going to Kershaw instead. And I think Nola, like I get the logic going to Nola for tournaments, but it's, as Jake mentioned, it's about a 5-point difference in terms of raw points between the two. And I'd rather pay the premium and get the projections. I mean, it's a median projection, but it's hard to find more strikeouts for Nola, whereas I could see Kershaw easily exceeding his projection.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, just the matchup is just so opposite here for the pitchers, and the pitchers are, well, first of all, Kershaw's in a way better park. Nola's obviously got the tougher park, possibly some weather issues, maybe a chance for an in-game delay as well in Philadelphia. That's worrisome for an expensive pitcher. So just all the options, like all the factors here are pointing me towards Kershaw over Nola.
Yeah, I would agree. And that risk there, I mean, I don't think we don't have a postponement risk right now, at least the last that I checked.
No, we don't. I just saw people in the YouTube chat talking about weather risk in Philly, so I just wanted to get that out there. We don't have any weather risk right now, any postponement risk, which you can see on the projections today, even if you are not a premium member.
Yeah, so go check those out for free. As Jake mentioned, they are up there right now on the site if you want to go take a look, get a little preview, and you could even use them, just plug them right in Fantasy Cruncher if you happen to be paying for that, but not Osmo for some reason, like a real jerk. But yeah, I think we've covered these top 2 guys at least. I think I'll probably, I got some Nola in there. I'm under the field on him, and I'm over the field on Kershaw. I think same as you said you were, but we'll obviously check in with you later in the show and see if anything changes throughout your crunching process. Let's jump to the other side here, because this is a guy who I find kind of interesting at his price point. He doesn't project terribly well, but I actually think he's a decent play. Cole Hamels, at 11% ownership on DraftKings, I think he's not in a bad strikeout spot. It's kind of gotten a little bit less good, but the bottom of that Philly order is just bad. I mean, Kingery, Quinn, Hernandez, Hazley, all these guys under an 88 WRC plus. Not much power there. And Hamels on the year has been really good. And if you want to spin a revenge narrative, you can do that. He's returning to Philly. He's been pitching well for the Cubs. 1.2 whip, a 4.1 xFIP on the year. Not much home run power being given up with a 2.2% home run rate. It is a park upgrade for the hitting. So, that is something which could give you some concern for Hamels. But are you going to have any of Hamels today, Jake?
I got to very few shares of Hamels right now, just 3 out of 150. He's another one, the Phillies and Laffy. If you listen to Laffy, you might think the Phillies are the worst team in MLB lately. He's pretty frustrated with this team, which I can certainly understand. But they're still, they're not a great strikeout matchup. Hamels isn't a great strikeout pitcher, and he's 9-3, and he's got the same possible weather risk that Nola does as well. So in-game delay for pitcher that can be devastating, even if it's somewhat of a short one, kind of throw off the rhythm. And if it's a long delay, your pitcher just is not coming back out, especially quality arms like these guys. So I'm not getting to a lot of Hamels. I'm either getting all the way up to Kershaw or going down in this low mid tier. But I understand why you'd want to get to Hamels. He's a solid pitcher. He's going to be relatively unowned. And I think there's worse pitchers that are getting ownership than Hamels tonight.
Yeah, that's where I shook out with it too, was that I just, I'm getting some Matz, and I'm like, all right, if I'm getting Matz, and I know people are going to Marco Gonzales, I think Hamels is a guy who, at least in terms of my numbers that I look at, I think he has a decent strikeout opportunity here. I think he's shown some strikeout ability and at least above league average. And I think Philly is just not a team I'm not intimidated by them in any way. I think they have some strikeouts there. And Nola too strikes out at a pretty high clip, almost a 60% strikeout rate for him versus lefties. So that should be a couple free strikeouts for him. Hamels just a guy who jumps out to me, and I've been lucky with these guys recently, so I might be just feeling my hot hand a little too much. But Hamels is a guy who jumped out as being a pitcher I wanted to get some of, and I'm double the field on him right now based on our ownership projection for DraftKings.
You mentioned real quick. You mentioned the strikeout risk. We've got a few minutes with only being 6 games, but you mentioned the strikeouts here. I asked Alex this on the Yahoo show, I think last Friday, but the pitcher K rate is something I almost never looked at when I would look at every single statistic for every batter last season. That's something that goes avoided a lot of the times. If you face the pitcher twice and the pitcher's got a 50% K rate, that's a whole another K, especially for a cheap pitcher when you're going against them. I think that's something that people overlook, and there's probably a reason that Alex mentions it on literally every deeper dive stream that he's on. So that's just something I've taken more note of to see some of these guys high K rates as pitchers or as hitters.
That's a good point, because he does point that out. And actually, I think I just took that phrasing from him where he's like, it's a bonus strikeout or two in that lineup.
Yeah.
And actually that's one thing I started to look at too, is I compile the K rates of the pitcher versus each handed batter, and then just put them together in the one number. And that's one that Cole Hamels is jumping out to me today. And actually he's put me on a couple guys like Mitch Keller earlier in the week. Not the most exciting play, but he was actually ended up being the top pitcher on that slate. So I've been trying to use it a little bit more, and Hamels is one guy who does stick out as maybe having a little more strikeouts there than I would see him on paper. And especially with that Nola strikeout, as Jake mentioned, just free strikeouts, and Nola's not a guy who's shown any propensity to hit the ball at all. Mm-hmm. We talked too about guys like DeSclafani too, have random power and stuff. If you're getting a guy like Nola who just is going to flail at the ball compared to a guy like DeSclafani, you can actually give it a ride. I'd much rather have the guy who's going to flail at the ball.
Oh, for sure. When Ohtani is in the Angels lineup, if he ever starts pitching again, you can just avoid the Angels, already a low strikeout team, and then you put in a guy who's a really awesome hitter with maybe a 22-24% K rate, and you're just toast if you're trying to play a pitcher against them. So that's obviously an extreme, but something that I just wanted to mention quick for maybe some people that don't think about that all the time.
Yeah, on this slate in particular, Jake, I appreciate you stretching for time wherever we can. We got to make it. That's the fine business of hosting a show like this, ladies and gentlemen out there. We got to go for an hour and change. And on a 6-game slate, we really luxuriate on the finer strategy points. And that is one I think that is worth hitting on. We should probably make sure to mention more, because as you mentioned, if Alex mentions it, it's usually as good as gold. Let's talk about Marco Gonzales, because he's a guy who is going to have ownership today going against Detroit, which tends to be a favorable matchup. But Detroit does have a couple guys who can hit lefties pretty well. I mean, they've lost Castellanos, who was their best lefty hitter by far, but also Cabrera, Goodrum. Those guys are both over a 130 WRC plus going back to last year. John Hicks, also pretty good versus lefties, the 116. Jake Rogers also shown a bit of a propensity for hitting lefties in a limited sample size, and not anything to stake your weight on or anything, but I don't think this is an easy matchup for Marco, and actually got some Detroit stacks as leverage going against him. What are you doing here with Marco relative to Detroit?
Yeah, I like the call on Detroit stacks here. So Marco's a guy who me and Josh thought we had pegged as a guy that was going to turn it around last season. Like he was getting a bunch of swings and misses towards the end of last season, and it turns out it was probably just more variance than anything. He's a pretty awful strikeout pitcher, one of the lowest rates on the entire day, even if you count the early slate guys like Freeland and Brian Johnson. So he's at 17.5% for the season. Hasn't given up a ton of power, but you're not really looking for a ton of power for these Detroit bats. And he's getting, what's his ownership on the last update? I know it was like around 20%, I think. On DraftKings.
So we just got an update, and he's at 13 now.
Okay.
Marco.
So, I mean, trending, I guess, in the right direction if you want to play Marco, but he's still getting ownership. Like, that's more ownership than Hamels. I'd rather just take a good pitcher in Hamels, and like I said, I'm not getting to him a lot, so not going to get to Marco. This is quite the overprice, even for a decent matchup against Detroit. There's still a ton of righty batters in here.
Yeah, it's exactly how I feel. Like, if Marco, like, just going off the top of my head, I was like, oh, Marco will be like mid sevens or something on DK.
Yeah.
Nope, 8,700 at that price, as Jake mentioned. That's why I'm going to Hamels, because I'd rather just pay a little more. Obviously, with Marco's ownership coming down a bit, Hamels has also come down a little bit too, so it's not going there. So is Eliezer. So Jake, if you just want to get that update too in there, that might be helpful.
Yeah. I'm gonna put that in right now. I'm starting my 4-4.
Yeah, so, some things did change, I'm noticing, but yeah, and Edwin Jackson now up to 5%, which
That's the Awesemo bump right there. He mentioned it's not the worst idea in the world. I don't know if you caught that part of the deeper dive. Yeah. So, he mentions him. You got to give him a couple bump in percentage points.
But yeah, I think we're on the same page with Marco, where I wouldn't mind paying a cheaper price, especially on a slate like this for him, but a hair shy of 9,000, and on FanDuel, or he'd be a total non-starter for me on FanDuel. So yeah, I think it's not a spot where I would want to go to Marco, and he does keep, does limit power to his credit. Only a 149 ISO going back to last year, only a 5.5% barrel ball rate. So a mini stack of Detroit more logical than a full stack, I think, but still going against Marco, not the worst idea. Let's do the Edwin Jackson question, because people in the YouTube chat maybe took a little literally, also took Alex's point perhaps a little too heavily, and curious about the idea of rostering Edwin Jackson. 5% seems pretty fair to me. I think that's not a crazy amount of Edwin Jackson, but still probably more than you're actually going to need. Doesn't project well, projects for just 1x value, but he's not negative value like that other guy, like Ty Block was the other day. So we're improving. Are you going to have any Edwin Jackson today?
I actually had a couple shares earlier. So I had 5 lineups out of 150, just as a differentiation point. That might even come down now with 5% ownership. Like, he's not a good pitcher. I guess theoretically there's strikeout upside against Seattle here, but we're talking about Edwin Jackson here. It would just be a price play in a way to, I guess, get reverse correlation with these Seattle bats that are going to be so popular against him. I don't know that he's really winning you a slate here regardless. Like, if I'm going to this 5K range, I'd rather go to Eliezer, just a more talented pitcher in a tougher matchup. But, I understand where Alex was coming from, saying that it wouldn't be the craziest thing in the world. It's a 6-game slate, and if he's just going to go disregarded by the public, like, why wouldn't you play him, especially with the bats so chalky against him? I mean, it's baseball. Crazy things happen all the time.
Yeah, I mean, there is a ton of ownership for that Seattle stack. And as our guy Makad points out in the premium Slack, which you get with part of your Awesemo Plus membership, so use that promo code live before lock for half off your first month to get access to the premium Slack and all the ownership projections and the player projections. As you can see during the show, we get ownership projections updates, and it can change the way you're going to play things. Very crucial part of playing MLB DFS. So use that promo code live before lock right now at awesemo.com/join for half off your first month. Yeah, look, I get the logic of it. I get why it might be worth it. And I agree, like, there's no way he's going to break the slate or anything. Like, that just seems like an impossibility here. But there are some strikeouts for the Mariners on the year. 26% K rate versus righties. Not the best hitting team overall versus righties either. The lineup a little bit less so that they have in there today. But yeah, I get it. It's just, it's hard to imagine. They blew up Matt Boyd yesterday. Like, it's hard to go to Edwin Jackson after they blow up Matt Boyd.
Yeah. I mean, man, it is really difficult to go to Jackson here. Like, it's just the price, and like Seattle may not be great, but they do have some power hitters too. So it's a bad matchup for Jackson too, and that's why you're seeing the 6+ implied total on Alex's lineups page here.
Yep, that's right. Let's jump to Eliezer because you did mention him. And he's a guy who I feel like does tend to project well from Osmo. He mentioned part of the logic why on the deeper dive today, which you should be watching every day too. I'm assuming if you're watching this, you probably did watch that. But watch both shows back to back because it's the best information you're going to get before slate. But he was talking about Eliezer's minor league numbers and how he really was like striking guys out at a high clip there, which was going to amortize down a little bit in the majors, but still more potentially is probably shown. The thing that jumps out to me, though, going against lefties, he's been getting obliterated going back to last season. I get up a 1.7 whip, a 6.7 xFIP, the isolated power of 257 to lefties. And this is a Dodgers team who all that power, that lefty hitting, is all going to have a lot of power with it. So I got to Eliezer a little bit. I think I'm going to end up slightly under the field, but I'm there. I don't want to go above the field on him today, but maybe you feel differently, Jake?
No, I don't think I'm going to end up like too far above the field. It'll probably be around the 15 to 20%, which is where he's going to stick in ownership. At least on DraftKings. So DraftKings only play for me. I don't think you need to do this on FanDuel. It's just salary relief. You're getting a pitcher with a 24% K rate in the majors so far at 5,600. So basically in any matchup, I'm willing to take a risk on that kind of guy. So you mentioned the lefties against Eliezer. Obviously super, super tough spot. And then your righties your righty you get to face right in the middle of the order is Justin Turner. So not an enviable spot here for Eliezer. I saw, not to give anything away, but I saw that your Four Corners video, you had a hitter who I like in particular as a one-off against Eliezer. I think I agree with you. So the lefties are in a good spot here for the Dodgers, but you're getting a $5,600 pitcher with some K upside in a fantastic park.
Yeah, Max Muncy, Jake, Jake had him in his home run picks yesterday, and he was one of very few Dodgers who didn't have one or two home runs.
Yeah. Crazy.
Which was hilarious out of all the guys to not have a home run when they're all going off. But yeah, like I think it's a great spot today. I mean, looking at this lineup now, like even getting Edwin Rios in there as another lefty, these guys are every single guy in the lineup besides Martin and Kershaw, they're all above a 130 WRC plus versus righties. So he's getting like a hall of horrors of lefties, and maybe he's due to regress a little bit. He has shown some ability to do things, so maybe he's not as bad as it seems. But the lefty splits and this particular group of lefties, this is like as bad of a row of lefties as you're going to find in any team. Bad in terms of like for him.
Oh,
really.
yeah. No, I know what you're saying. I mean, they're phenomenal. Just Jock, Muncy, Bellinger, Seager, Beatty can hit for power, as we saw last night. I mean, there's just no real rests in this lineup. So there's certainly a case to be made on both sides. I'm sure we'll talk about the Dodgers here in 10 minutes or so.
Yeah, so yeah, I think that's sort of sums it up with Eliezer. It is a cost there, like a potential for him to do that at a reasonable price and get something going. But I'm not as inclined to trust him. But yeah, I think 17% ownership, that seems pretty fair to me. I'm not really, I don't find that to be too crazy. If he was 30%, like I think we had him inching towards earlier, I think that would have been a bit much. But 17, sure, take your dice roll with that.
Yeah.
Who else are you getting? I guess we should just keep, well, you know what? We did stretch this out pretty well. So, what about Chris Archer and Steven Matz? Those guys are kind of similar price point guys. Two guys who actually have a track record of some success and have not been the worst pitchers overall, guys who can get strikeouts, particularly Archer. Archer, though, is getting a chalky Angels team going against him. Matz, I guess Atlanta getting a little bit chalkier, but still not that chalky despite the really high team total for them. Who would you prefer out of Matz and Archer?
Matz in kind of a landslide, actually, which is not something I thought I would have said even a few months ago. Archer just gives up a ton of power. You've got high implied totals against both of these guys, so it's not like I'm, wanting to play a ton of either guy. But Matz is cheaper. I think they project similarly for us. And then because Archer has the 26% K rate, he's getting some ownership, which I understand. But Matz is actually getting less ownership right now. And the Braves do have some high strikeout hitters in their lineup, even though a lot of them are from the right side. Flowers, Duvall, Donaldson, K's quite a bit versus righties. And then Keuchel, of course, the pitcher spot. Keuchel is a really bad hitter. So scary total against him. You're seeing 5.9 on your screen right now. But I do like Matz. I think he is a talented pitcher. And this is how I'm saving money rather than going from Kershaw down to Nola. I'm going from Archer down to Matz here.
Yeah, I think that's logical. I mean, the one thing that jumps out for Matz that could be a problem today is that 205 ISO that gives up to righties because he's going to get some righties with a ton of power as well. And that scares me a bit, especially on a hot day in Atlanta. I mean, it's been a little bit cooler there recently, but a park, it's going to be pretty beneficial for Atlanta as well. So it's a tough spot for Matz. But I agree. Like, I think the Archer ownership is kind of crazy. And the fact that he just more reliably gives up power, I think, is a bit scarier. I mean, you're going to get some tough lefties in there too, who Archer's really struggled against. He has a 5.2 xFIP versus lefty batters. He's given up a 223 ISO to lefties, so that's really not good. It's kind of the same thing as Matz with righties. But yeah, I agree. The price there, it's a pretty big difference. It can help you afford some things. So I'm with you on more Matz than Archer. And I actually had to force Archer in. He wasn't occurring for me as much in the stacks that I like. So I'm under the field on him, and I think that's fair.
Well, yeah, I mean, so I pulled up the projections right now since they're free today. If you look at, so you can filter by pitcher if anybody hasn't looked at these before. You can filter by pitchers. This is something I like to do. Just see where Alex is at on all these pitchers. Sometimes sort by value or something like that. We've got Matz being a better value, as you see, fourth best value on the slate for DraftKings. Archer, a bottom half value right now. So pretty significant difference in value projection. We've actually got Matz as a higher projected player on DraftKings, just straight up. And if they're getting similar ownership and you're saving $1,100, that's going to allow you to upgrade your lineup while also not being chalkier at the hitter position.
Yeah, I agree. And I mean, I still will have some Braves exposure. We'll talk about the hitting more in the second half of the show. But that said, I do think in the lineups where I don't have Braves, I think Matz is a pretty solid play to have in there. And the price point for him does work. Like, that's what Marco Gonzales should be priced, I think. Instead, he's getting a gigantic Detroit price up, and Matz is getting a big Atlanta price down.
Yeah, for sure.
What about the cheap tier of guys who we talked about some of the main ones who actually project as being decent, but people are going to be playing Dylan Peters today, it looks like, who's not a guy I would want to play. Brad Keller, also not really a guy I'd want to play. And Dakota Hudson, too. Actually, I am playing a little Dakota Hudson, which doesn't thrill me, but it happened, and I'm living with it day by day, one day at a time. Any of those three appealing to you at all, Jake?
Not especially. I guess I could see like why people are getting to Peters, but he's just a $6,300 favorite, whereas you can't say that about a lot of other guys on the slate. All the cheaper guys are kind of big underdogs here, besides Hudson, but he's another one that I'm not getting too much. Just a tough strikeout matchup for Peters here, a guy that has a below average K rate already. Same thing with Keller against the Cardinals, large implied total against him. I really like Cardinals bats too. So not getting to a lot of Brad Keller. Who else do we have left here? We've kind of hit on basically everyone. We hit on Jackson. Dallas Keuchel. I mean, This is the most Dallas Keuchel I'll play probably for the rest of his career. I have 30% right now in DK where he's 20%, and I'm fine with that. It's just because I need another pitcher in this range.
Yeah, no, I think that's fair. And Keuchel, I'm with you on Keuchel as well. Not a guy I'm super excited about, but at that price, his price has come down quite a bit. He just got hammered last start too, which certainly can happen again here. You have a lot of guys who can hit lefties extremely well. Pete Alonso's been making, just a killing every time he goes against lefty at 154 WRC plus and a 400 ISO and a big enough sample size now where he just looks like he's that hitter. Wilson Ramos too, a much better hitter versus lefties, 146 WRC plus and a 225 ISO. So Keuchel, even though he's kept the ball down pretty well, if he gives up power like he gave up that last time in Miami, it's a pretty good day to do that again, one would think.
Yeah, and Alex actually said that one of his favorite stacks is the Mets, which I kind of agree with, I think. So we'll see. This should be a really interesting slate. I think a really fun one for MME and not so fun if you're trying to hand build one lineup, I think.
Yeah, I would agree with that. All right, we're at the halfway point of the show, Jake. Let's do our home run picks. Of course, the time every show where I can torture myself with my regretful and regrettable picks over the last month and a half. But yesterday, we had nobody getting on, I believe Josh said earlier. So, yeah, no home runs between Javi Baez, Manny Machado, Max Muncy, Keston Hiura, and Aaron Judge, who continues to disappoint every time he's picked hilariously. It's one thing that's brought me joy in this run of coldness for me. We got Emacs picks, and I was going to break his heart anyway because I'm going with Dan Vogelbach, the Four Corners cover boy. I'm trying to pick more of my cover boys and the spot versus Edwin Jackson for that big, beefy, beautiful man, Dan Vogelbach. He better hit a home run today, so he is my man.
All right, so Vogelbach, 6 implied total, batting 6th. I don't think that's not a super chalk pick, so I like that.
Thank you, Jake.
Did we say that Emacs taking Ohtani, correct?
Yeah, Emac is taking Shohei Ohtani because I guess you're going to be courteous and not take him just out of spite, which I would have supported. But
no, I'm not going to take him. Although he would be a pretty good candidate for a home run tonight. He's one of my highest guys.
Yeah, really good spot going against Archer. I mean, look, it's not too late, Jake, if you want to step on Emac's heart a little.
No. Emac's got Ohtani. I think I'm going to run it back here with Muncy. I feel like he did me wrong yesterday, but this is as good of a spot as ever for him to dong outside of the park. Like, I think he's going to make some quality contact here against Elieser. Also gets me some leverage. He's a guy that I'm super heavy on. So Max Muncy, once again, have we had that where someone's taking the same person back to back?
I'm sure it's occurred, but there's no way to tell that quickly.
I think Emac took Renfroe like 3 times in a week, so I'm sure he got a back-to-back in there somewhere.
No, he actually missed Hunter Renfroe 3 times in a week.
No, yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. Has anybody?
Oh, he took it back-to-back, but yeah, it wasn't like one night was good and one night was bad.
Yeah,
it was just all bad with Hunter Renfroe.
That's funny. Yeah, so.
But Jake is now in striking distance of Emac. I didn't do the standings up top because that's the part that I want to tuck away safely. But Emac is in first place with 26 total dongs. But Jake just behind him now with 24 total dongs, and you have the most double dongs overall. So you are closing a gap. Correct picks, Emac still has you by a bit, but yeah, still you're right in the mix there, Jake. It's good timing for you.
Yeah, I think I told Emac I was gonna make a run at him here, but I don't know. He's been slumping a little bit lately, so needed to capitalize last night. Like, all the Dodgers hit homers except for my boy Muncy, so I think he owes me a couple tonight.
Oh, here we go. And Chris Randone dropping in with a pick. I know Josh said that he wouldn't have one, but it is going to be Anthony Bemboon for Chris Randone, continuing his digging deep for guys trajectory here.
Little onomatopoeia there. Bemboon.
Bemboon, yeah. I mean, who's the? Oh, is there another Bemboon or who's no Keyboom? Keyboom is something.
Spencer Keyboom, yeah.
And there's another Keyboom, right? There's isn't there like a Casey Keyboom or somebody?
There probably is, man. All these guys. So much nepotism going on. Oh, I guess it's like brothers, so maybe not nepotism, but I'm sure there's another word for it.
Yeah, I mean, I think baseball, like, if there were any sport that would give a little nepotism and be like, oh, his brother can hit, so I'm sure he can hit. Baseball would be that sport.
The Seagers, those are 2 brothers. Well deserving, though, of major league spots, as we saw last night with Kyle. And Corey, they both homered.
Yeah, 50 fantasy point, 1% ownership Kyle Seager, who I took out of my lineup last minute because I'm like, lefty versus Boyd. I put in Santana instead. Santana got 4 points. And Kyle Seager got 50.
Oh, man.
Just a bit of a swing. But a logical pick, though, for Bemboon because he's getting that lefty spot versus Archer, as we mentioned. I guess let's talk the Angels because we talked about Ohtani here. So the lefty spot versus Chris Archer has been a really good one, giving up a ton of power there. And you are getting a lot of lefties here. Brian Goodwin now in the leadoff spot. Shohei Ohtani in the 3-hole. Cole Calhoun right behind him in the cleanup spot. Rengifo is going to be hitting from that side of the plate. One of our perennial favorites on Jake and my shows. Luis Rengifo, and Bemboon, a catcher, very cheap, has some power, shown some power in the majors. Very limited sample size in the majors so far, but I think he should be grading out competently moving forward. What are you doing with the Angels? Where are you going to be with them relative to the field?
Real quick, love the Angels, but also Josh made a pick, if you didn't see.
Oh, there we go. Okay.
He made the guy I was just talking about, oddly enough. We were just talking about Kyle Seager.
Oh, okay. Kyle Seager.
So there we go. You certainly got to take the dong pick after the guy gets 3 homers the night before. Trying to ride that hot streak, I suppose.
Hot streak, or maybe he used up all his magic yesterday. Hard to say.
Depends how you look at it. So that's the good and bad part about narratives and hot streaks and all that stuff that people like to talk about on Twitter. So back on the Angels here, Archer giving up almost 2 home runs per 9, tons of quality contact. And you've got, at least at the top of the lineup, a bunch of guys that are going to put the ball in play. Not high strikeout hitters like Pujols you got in there. Calhoun can hit righties. Ohtani's just a really awesome hitter. Of course, Trout. And then Goodwin for $3,800 leading off. So I think the Angels are my favorite team overall tonight in terms of the team I'll have the most exposure to. So absolutely love them here against Archer. And people are playing Archer as well. So even better for leverage.
Yeah, I would agree there. The leverage on Archer is going to be a little bit under 20% owned, looks pretty good. And just the power that he gives up. I mean, he's in a park for the Angels, which has been one of the better power parks. I believe Alex mentioned it on the deeper dive, but it is a pretty hot day and a little bit humid. It's actually been a little bit humid this week in LA in general, which obviously going to only benefit the Angels since the Dodgers are not here. So yeah, I think it's a pretty good spot to go to Dodgers. And that strikeout rate is pretty appealing for Archer on the other side, but as an Angels team doesn't strike out that much versus righties, just 19% K rate. This lineup they have today is a little bit higher because you're getting Tovar in there who sucks pretty bad, but everybody else looking pretty good, not really striking out above league average. So could be a good day for the Angels.
Yeah, I absolutely love them here. So, I mean, I hope more people get on Archer, honestly, because I'm not going to be there.
Yeah, I think that's fair. CNG Core in the YouTube chat asking, would you guys grab any Pirates tonight? So this is actually an interesting question to me because I've liked the Pirates a lot in the series, and they've worked out a couple times at low ownership. And I think the spot versus Peters is pretty good, but I didn't get to any Pirates, and I kind of forgot to force any in. I think once Ozuna was already out of the lineup because I think he's serving a suspension, somebody said. That's not the best spot for me because that kind of drags their overall value down. But I think they're due to regress a little more positively versus lefties. And you have a bunch of switch hitters who will be hitting from the right side against Peters, giving up a lot of power. 231 ISO to right-handed hitters. Are you going to have any Pittsburgh going against what's going to be a pretty decently owned Dylan Peters?
Yeah, I think I'm going to have some Pittsburgh bats. They're not going to be like a super exposed stack for me. Like there's just other teams that are grading out quite a bit better. So I'm going to have Newman leading off, dual position eligibility for 4,200. Really like that. Josh Bell back up to 5K makes it difficult, as does Starling Marte at 5,200. So I think on DraftKings, they're kind of your classic anti-optimizer play, but still not one that I'm getting to a lot because, like I said, I'm getting up to Kershaw. And when I am getting to expensive bats, it's going to be the LA teams mostly.
Yeah, no, I think that's a fair approach. I just would point out, I mean, I think I have no issue with Pittsburgh. I didn't get there today, and I'm actually kind of regretting it because I do think it's a nice spot versus Peters. And Peters got kind of lucky, I think, the last time that he pitched. I think it was when he was going against Boston Chalk, and he kind of survived that day. I don't foresee that happening again with Peters anytime soon. And I think Pittsburgh's in a nice spot to keep it going. If you can pay those prices, I mean, those prices are still tough to pay off, even if they did have a decent day.
Yeah, for sure.
Oh, yeah, he had a 19.9 fantasy point day versus Boston last time out. Dylan Peters did.
Really?
Yeah.
He must not have been on a slate that I played or something, or I wasn't on a show for that.
It was chalk. It was chalk Boston day last week.
Yeah. Okay.
I mean, yeah, it was like that Tuesday, I think. That was when people really gave up on them when they didn't blow up Dylan Peters. But yeah, almost 20 fantasy points for him. But I don't see that happening again personally. No. Who's going to be your number one stack overall?
I think it's going to be the Angels. Actually, I think the top two are going to be the Angels and the Dodgers. So you're getting leverage off both pitchers, and then they just project so well for us. If you look at a lot of these guys, again, if you sort by value in the projections today, which you guys can all check out, because it is a Thursday, so they are free for today. There's just a lot of really good.
Wednesday, Jake.
Oh yeah, it is. Why do I think it's a Thursday? Oh, I'm usually not on Wednesday. That's why.
Yeah, before it ruins your life and you're like, classic Thursday, nothing to do, and then you forgot to pick up your girlfriend or something.
No. I did know it was a Wednesday. We had our call today, so I'm on it. Other than that, but slipped up there for a minute. The Angels just really awesome value against Archer plus the added leverage. That's something I sort my lineups for that we talked about last time we were on, and then the Dodgers as well. They grade out exceptionally well. And they're also a really high price stack that not a ton of people are getting to. I don't think the full stack is going to be super popular. I think Jock, rightfully so, is going to be popular, and Seager for 4,100 batting fifth. But I don't know that the stack's going to be as popular with like Muncy and Bellinger in there as people go to some other better value teams.
Yeah, I mean, people certainly not going to be getting down to the BD and Rios tier of guys, even though, as we mentioned earlier, those guys have been hitting the ball really well versus righties. So yeah, I'm with you on that. I think the Dodgers are one for me. They're close to my top, and the Angels as well. I have a bunch of, and our projections do put you there quite a bit, as well as the leverage, which Jake and I both account for, the ownership of the opposing pitcher or opposing hitters. So yeah, I'm with you on that. I think the Angels are a good one. I will say though, my top one is going to be Seattle. Like I think it's hard to get away there. We talked about it before we came on the air. I wanted to do more 3-mans. I ended up with a good amount of 5-mans and 3-mans. I just feel like the 3-man is the way to go if people try to stack that 5, which they are going to be doing heavily. How much Seattle are you going to have relative to the field? Because they are the chalk stack of all chalk stacks it seems today.
Yeah, I'm going to be, I think, similar to you or actually what you're trying to do, right? Did you say that you are getting the 3-man stacks, or that you are?
I got a little bit less than I wanted. What I have ended up with was more 5-mans than I wanted.
Okay.
I wanted my 5-mans to pretty much be mostly 3-mans, but I ended up with close to a split of 5-mans and 3-mans.
Yeah, so I'm getting more like 3-man stacks with Seattle, which I usually do when you're getting a stack that's kind of coming in a little bit over owned relative to their chances of being the top overall stack. So I think that's working out well for me. They're super appealing, but I'm hoping that another full stack goes off and maybe you get the couple fillers from Seattle that have big nights, because there's no doubt about it. There's awesome value here. Some of these guys are going to outperform their spots for sure, but I'm hoping the full 5-man or 4-man stack goes off elsewhere. And that's why I'm getting to the LA teams that are a little bit more expensive, even though it is very difficult to not want to just play 100% Seattle against Edwin Jackson, who's like 60 years old and throws 85-mile-an-hour fastballs.
Yeah, and a 15% barreled ball rate for old Edwin too this year, 6.2 xFIP, giving up going back to last season a 230 ISO overall, which is the worst on the slate. So yeah, a lot of reasons to be going against Edwin Jackson today. But if you are going to go and differentiate somewhere, or try to get the one-offs or the mini stacks, maybe will capture that production for you. That is a move to take in tournaments. But yeah, I think it's just you got to suck it up and play a good amount of them and hope it doesn't completely bomb, because the value prices too, like they shouldn't be the cheap going against Edwin Jackson.
Yeah. Makad.
Oh, go ahead. No, you go.
Makad in chat asking any love for Brad Keller. We kind of skipped over him. I said that I didn't have any real love for him, but I don't know. Did you get to any Keller in your lineups at all?
I didn't, because he doesn't have the strikeout ability. A 17% K rate doesn't really look that appealing. But I think his leverage, I think the thing with Keller to me is he keeps it in pocket really well. Like, doesn't like get games out of control. A 6.2% barreled ball rate, which is pretty low. A 114 ISO going back to last year. The park going to enable overall hitting, but not home run power too much. And that's already something he's done well with. So I'm not too afraid of I don't like St. Louis as a stack personally today because of that reason. I'm under the field on them. But it's hard to go to Keller because the strikeout upside isn't there, and it's not like the Cardinals have given you a ton of free ones. So I would be less inclined to play him, but I could see matching the field at 8% ownership. Like, that's pretty reasonable.
I think it is reasonable ownership. Like, he's kind of the king of these kind of slates where there's just nothing, and he gets you 14, 15. I don't really think there's any real upside, even on 2-pitcher sites at 7,500. On FantasyDraft, he's at, 14.8. Like, it's really difficult with some other guys that are probably better spots, probably better pitchers overall, like Matz. You could get to Keuchel too. So not getting to Keller here.
So a weird question in YouTube chat, which I don't really know how to address. So I'm going to try to choose my words carefully. I guess there was a shooting in Philly where some cops were shot, and people are asking if that may affect the game today for Philadelphia. It's hard for us to have any sort of conjecture on that. I think my inclination would be probably not, but I think it depends on the proximity to the stadium and all that. I don't think it's that close, at least from what I can tell, right?
I have no idea. I'm not the guy to ask, I guess.
Yeah, I wouldn't. Yeah, I think for us, we try to cover these angles as much as we can, as much as we know, and this is something we certainly don't know the answer to, because unfortunately, even though it is a common occurrence in America, it's not something where we have to deal with too much on DFS slates. But I think I would pay attention to it. Certainly pay attention to the Phillies handle, because the Phillies handle actually is pretty good at updating people on these things. But I think as long as it looks safe and they have things contained, I would assume they'll play. And it could be a day where they need it to play. As somebody who was in New York during 9/11, sometimes you need those games to occur for people too.
Yeah, no news that I'm seeing right now, just on a quick search. So I'm not sure.
Yeah, so just keep your eyes peeled on it. But yeah, anything more than that, we would just be conjecture. So we don't know. But Billy Bigfoot saying cops are far away from the stadium, no effect. So I would think the same from what I could tell too. But it's just guesswork at this point. But obviously our condolences go out to everybody there. That's because we have so many Philly people here on the Osmo team who are very big fans of that area and from that area. So stay safe, guys. Let's talk about, I can't transition to the hitting in that game. So let's transition to another game instead. That's going to be less morbid. Let's go to the Kansas City side of the equation, going against Dakota Hudson, because they're not owned. They're one team who on the slate is not owned at all. And it is a spot versus Dakota Hudson, a guy who's just not that good. really doesn't offer up. He's been pretty good versus righties in terms of just not getting blown up, but doesn't offer strikeout ability. And Kansas City, I have honestly on this size, you're still completely forgotten. You have any Kansas City just because they're also really stupidly priced. Jesus Christ.
Very, very little of Kansas City. I mean, you've got Dozier and Soler in there, and Merrifield. Granted, those are the best hitters, but they're all 5K plus against a ground ball pitcher in Hudson. I don't think they're super necessary tonight. At least they're not necessary for my lineups. So they're going to be low-ish owned, and it is a pretty good hitting environment. I suppose there's going to be a lot of balls in play against Hudson here, but not a team that's really catching my eye tonight. I like the other side quite a bit better.
Yeah, and so you mentioned them going against Keller as a reason why you're not going to have too much Keller. I guess where are you relative to the field on St. Louis? Because they're going to be pretty decently owned, but I wouldn't say chalky per se on a slate of this size.
Yeah, reasonable ownerships for a bunch of these guys, especially on DK. So, I just think it's a really good implied total. They have an awesome chance of being one of the better value stacks on the board if you look at the top stack tool. And they're not getting as much ownership as Seattle, which I really like. So I'm quite a bit farther below on Seattle than I was on my last crunch. So maybe their ownership has come up collectively just a little bit. And more of that is getting filtered to the Cardinals, which I think I'm okay with. It is a better spot for Seattle, of course, but the question just becomes, is it worth it to go to the Mariners over a team like the Cardinals when it is a pretty similar spot?
Yeah, I mean, I just think I wouldn't say it's a similar spot because I think Keller he just doesn't give up that power, and maybe that'll make it easier for them to generate runs because I mean there is it's a pretty good doubles park and a pretty good run generation park overall in Kansas City, but I don't know, I maybe I just respect Keller too much, but a low whip guy who also doesn't give up power, that's usually not the guy I'm going against much. So I'm okay not having as much St. Louis and just putting that towards anybody going against Edwin Jackson.
Yeah, Keller's not a bad pitcher by any means. He's a fine guy. He should be in the major league. It's not like one of these complete gas cans. He doesn't give up a ton of power. But you just look at implied total, price, and compared to some other teams on the slate, St. Louis looks pretty appealing to me.
Okay, that's fair. Let's go back to this Dodgers-Miami game because we've talked about it enough throughout the course of the hour, but we should probably key in a little bit more on this here because we talked about it relative to the downsides I guess we hit on it enough. But about Miami, though, any Miami at all for you? Because Kershaw is going to be chalk. We've seen them blow guys up. There are some guys here. I mean, this lineup is better than it has been throughout the year. It's still not good, obviously. But any Miami at all for you as a leverage play going against a very chalky Kershaw on every site?
No, I'm good on Miami. I'll check to see if I got any of their hitters, but they just grade out so poorly. Yeah, I'm seeing zeros basically across the board for Miami hitters here.
I got one lineup with some Miami in there with a 3-man Miami alongside the Dodgers, which I don't mind, but it's not one of the better projecting lineups I have, and I think I got my randomest too for hitters to 120, so that probably got them a little bit closer.
Mm-hmm.
But I think to even get Miami consistently, looking at their projections, you probably have to have 200% randomness on to get them. And
they're way down there. I mean, by far the worst team for us on projections.
Yeah, so not looking good for them, but if you're a person who likes to be brave and likes to go against conventional logic, which MLB DFS can reward you for that many times, I can see the logic in going to Miami, but that low team total, not any guys who jump out as being the most compelling. It's hard to really justify Miami exposure today.
I mean, they just have such a low chance of being the top stack. It's like if I was playing Miami, I wouldn't just, if you're trying to get leverage off of Kershaw, don't just full stack Miami blindly. Maybe you put in 2 to 3 bats at most against him because that's probably all you're going to need for Kershaw not to be the nuts. If your guys do well, so you're looking to capture that couple home runs or a guy hitting a 3-run homer off Kershaw that's going to bury him, rather than a full stack where Miami scores 10 runs off Kershaw, some of these other guys could do off of other pitchers.
Yeah, I would agree with that. That's why to me, I got a 3-man or 2. I'm all right with that, or a 2-man with a 5-2-1. I think that's logical. But yeah, not a spot to full stack, even though sometimes you can't see that pay off. More often than not, that's not a plus EV move.
It's going to pay off once or twice a season when you stack against a legit ace like this. Outside of crazy weather games, if in Coors or something like that, or Wrigley Wind game, that's a completely different story. But the implied total says it all. It's actually gone down since we started the show.
Oh, good. All right. Well, so I guess, well, it's getting even better leverage then now.
There you go.
Getting some notifications in the premium Slack from our guys, Moses Guthrie and TJ Too Cool. Apparently, there's some delay chances of Atlanta now. The tarp is on the field. One of the other meteorologists out there saying they are an early game delay threat. Looks like it'll be 90% safe afterwards, is what they're saying. So how are you feeling about this weather, Jake? Any concern at all for you? I'm just going to play it straight, I think.
I'm playing it straight up. I will refresh for everyone right now and see if there's a postponement risk on the on Osmo's projections. But it looks like last update was 43 minutes ago. He would have updated. If that was going to affect his process, he would have tweeted something out. So you're seeing flat zeros across the board. And I put a lot of stock into that, of course.
Tyler Lee in the YouTube chat is having a day out there. He's off from work. He's getting a little wild in the chat. You've talked me into it. Lock Edwin with a Miami stack. Yes. Just leave 10K on the table.
Yeah, there you go. Salary doesn't matter. Just play all bad players, in fact. Play some, I don't even know, Jordy Mercer. Got to get some of him in there. Wilfredo Tovar. I mean, just all the elite players.
Yeah, don't do that in general. That's really not the right approach. But hey, it would be funny though if that happens. We would look back on this moment and be like, I know that we've gotten like the takes backwards sometimes because that's just what happens in the sport. But man, that would be a real kick in the nuts.
Oh yeah, I mean Miami locked to score 10 against Kershaw tonight.
Yeah, not the best. Yeah, I'm not going to read that stuff. Let's go to this game in Philly because that one also a game where there is some weather risk there, some chance of it being delayed. Apparently, if it, well, I guess this guy has a 40% delay risk after 8 to 8:30, according to one Twitter weather meteorologist of note. So we'll see how that goes. But Philly here going to have some ownership on them. It looks like the Cubs not so much. Either side of this Philly Cubs game looking appealing to you in terms of the hitters?
Not really. I think this is the game I have the least total ownership on. Just very, very few shares of both sides. I guess if I was going to a team, it would probably be the Phillies. And it's a little worrisome that I don't have really any of them. Not even like my usual Harper, Rhys Hoskins shares. I am pretty concentrated on just a handful of teams tonight, and Philly and Chicago isn't really making the cut, and that has nothing to do with weather issues or other issues going on. I'm reading some of the stuff in chat, and yeah. So
I don't think we can confirm any of those things in the chat.
No, not even. Yeah. So no Phillies, no Cubs for me. When I'm getting my value tonight, it's with the Angels, it's with the Cardinals, and some Seattle, and then kind of this Dodgers bottom of the lineup.
Yeah, I don't mind the idea of the Cubs, honestly. Like, it's hard to see a full stack getting there versus Nola because he has been decent, not giving up a ton of power. But, like, you have enough guys here who can hit the ball and can create runs where I could see doing a mini stack of them. And actually, I might actually have one with Castellanos off that I can't recall offhand. But, yeah, I think overall it's not a spot that I hate the idea of it very much, but not one I'm dying for either. Like, it's just not – I think Nola's going to be good enough. I think we're more likely to see the situation that Jake outlined where he gives up a couple runs and his night's over, his day's over. And the strikeouts are not going to be there at a really high clip for him either. But I think it's just not probably going to be enough for a full stack to get there, I would think.
Right. I did get to 8% Rhys Hoskins, so I missed him on my run through. But looking at – I mean, that's basically nothing on this slate anyways. So,
yeah. Good price for him in the leadoff spot. Those are both positives for him for sure.
Yeah, for sure. I got my DK exposures up if we want to.
Oh yeah, go for it.
Look at anything. Oh, we've also got Paul Blackburn of the night as well.
Yes, I see a McCod's alert. Of course, we got to get back to that Luminary award that we give away.
Yeah. So Kershaw, and then just a ton of Angels. Trout 60, Ohtani 54, Goodwin 45. Then I've got Eliser in there. Wow, I get to a lot of Eliser and less Dodgers than I imagined. But we've got 32% Fletcher, 28% Pujols, 26% Rengifo. So it is basically all about the Angels for me tonight. I'm kind of having some FOMO on some of these Braves hitters. And then I also wanted to get to more Mets. Only got to a few of those guys as well.
Well, if it gives you any sort of less FOMO, the Braves is officially delayed now. So that was expected based on the most recent reports with Tarp out on the field, but it is officially in a delay. But the expectation is it will start up later. But
okay. I think, yeah, that's a good thing, I think, for them anyways.
Yeah, but yeah, better to get it going, especially for the pitching there. It'll be better to start rather than just
Right.
to start and then have to stop. Let's see, anything good here? All right, yeah. So nothing important in the chat right now. Let's do the Paul Blackburn of the night because actually, are you doing FanDuel too, or are you only DK for you today?
Oh, I have FanDuel too. Let's
Yeah,
see.
go for it. Yeah,
Is
for Terry Wilson, who was a little bit bummed. Apparently, Josh
Yeah.
let him down yesterday, so you got to make it up for Terry
All
Wilson.
right, Terry, I'll try to fill in here. Kershaw, 60% on both sites. That's crazy on a one pitcher site, but that's how much better of a play is than everyone else. And then all the Detroit, it's looking like against Marco, then the Angels, highest exposed hitters, Trout, of course, then Ohtani. So I like that 1-2 combo. St. Louis popping up a little bit. A few more Mets on FanDuel for me, although not getting to quite the field on some of these guys. So it is going to be a lot of Tigers. I did not expect that to come up on FanDuel.
I'm there. So look, so hey, welcome to the club, Jake.
All right. There we go. Pretty good club.
Yeah, that was where I was earlier, and I was like, well, all right. I guess I just kept getting a couple ones in there to get the pitchers I liked in particular. Because I have a couple Kershaw, Hamels mixes, which obviously spending up a lot there. It will definitely end up with some Detroit, and I'm getting leverage with my batters and getting the pitching that I really want today. I think was a nice mix. So yeah, go Miguel Cabrera, Nico Goodrum, and company.
Yeah, if it was like 2010, I would love having a bunch of Miguel Cabrera, but here we are.
Yeah. He's still a 163 ISO versus lefties, so he does have more power versus lefties than righties. So he's got that going for him.
Well, there you go. I like your positive spin you put on it.
Try. Jake, I've learned from this show that we can say a positive thing or negative thing about any player based upon how we couch it.
Well, that's just baseball too. Like it's just so volatile. Like there's always a different take you can have, and there's always like an ownership or a price where you can play a guy or not play a guy.
Oh, here's one fun game. Guess who the only negative WRC plus player is? We'll do the Paul Blackburn in a second, but it just popped out to me. Only negative WRC plus player on the slate today besides pitchers.
All right. I'm scrolling down too far. Let's see here. Is it Lagares?
It is Harold Castro, a -4 in 40 at-bats versus lefties.
Wow. That's really bad.
Not the best for, you expect so much more out of Harold Castro. It's a bummer when he turns out like that.
Yeah, I guess lefty, you would expect that he'd be pretty bad, but that's all kinds of bad.
Lagares is 69. It's actually a pretty nice WRC plus for him versus lefties.
That is pretty nice, as the kids say.
All right, Paul Blackburn of the night, Jake. Who would it be?
All right, let me pull up my exposures here.
And of course, I should do the full preamble. The Paul Blackburn of the Night award, of course, goes to the pitcher who is both terrible in nature, but also cheap enough that he could find his way into a tournament-winning lineup. A little bit tougher on this slate because people are playing Dylan Peters. So, who is it going to be, Jake?
All right, I didn't think I was getting to this guy either, but I got to 14% Dakota Hudson. So
there we go.
That's right exactly where the field's at on DK. So I'll take Dakota Hudson. I guess he qualifies. Not one of the chalkier pitchers on the slate. He's not good for DFS at all, but hopefully gets some ground balls, maybe racks up a couple strikeouts here.
Yeah, I'm still under the field on Dakota Hudson because he's at 12% ownership, but I have 10% with him, and I got him before, and I was like, really? All right. So I guess that was how I felt about it. And yeah, he would be my pick too. So I think this actually makes me feel good because it feels like I've figured out the leverage stuff enough where if we end up landing on the same things at the end of the day, that means my process is finally coming along. It took an entire year.
Well, I always go on lineup study, and that's also an add-on you guys can get with FC Pro, as a lot of you know, I'm sure. But I always go on lineup study and look at like Alex and Tom's lineups and a few other guys, pro players, and just see if kind of our exposures were similar. Because sometimes I'll just completely miss on a team, and then that probably means there's something going wrong with my rankings process. And if I'm on the same path as those guys, you're not going to have all the exposures super close or anything, but like if I'm on the same teams and getting, as long as my highest exposed guy is like 40%, like highest exposed hitter is 40%, if Alex has a guy at 52, like at least I know I'm on the right track as far as like where my exposure should be on a night-to-night basis. So that's something I would recommend doing on lineup study.
Yeah, that is one of the features there. Of course, the Fantasy Cruncher Pro, which you can get if you go to osmo.com/join. And separately, if you want to get that Osmo Plus membership, don't tilt and go into the night slate unprepared. Go in there now. Use the promo code Live Before Lock for half off your first month of Osmo Plus. And apparently play some Dakota Hudson. Just not too much, just a little taste. You don't want to get hooked on Dakota Hudson. You just want to get your little fix.
That's right. On. Yeah. Not too much Dakota. So the night slate tonight is actually only 2 games. It locks in just over an hour, I believe, if you're looking at DraftKings.
So get in there now. Use that promo code now, right immediately. Don't even wait to finish your main slate lineups.
So let me see. Do we have ownership for the night slate posted? I don't know if we do just yet.
Yeah, I feel like it'll probably come in a little bit.
Yeah. So the slate is not like a normal night slate. It's not like there's a bunch of West Coast games that start at 10 Eastern tonight. I love those slates. Like I had success on the night slate last night as well. And we're one of the only sites, I think maybe the only site that provides night slate ownership and early slate and all that stuff, Turbo, Express, whatever slate there is, we have ownership for it. So guys behind the scenes doing a lot of hard work and helping you get that extra edge.
Very late ask for Terry to be doing this, but who are your top FanDuel stacks one more time for him?
Angels and the Tigers. I'm as surprised as Terry probably is going to be when he hears me say that.
Yeah, I think I would be more inclined to go Angels in Seattle or Dodgers in Seattle or some combination of those 3.
That sounds way better than playing Detroit. I definitely cannot argue with that. So.
Oh man, if people take like the joke advice combined with the actual advice you give them, like, oh yeah, I won a tournament with an Edwin Jackson combined with Miami and Detroit stacks. Hell of a day at the office.
Yeah, they'll like tweet at us like 1,800 flame emojis. Just like.
According to whoever's behind the handle, I presume Tom, night slate ownership will be up in 5. So go get in there now. Use our promo code Live Before Lock for half off your first month of Osmo Plus. And we are locked. So we got all that stuff in. Hit that like button, guys, because that helps us keep the lights on here. Also, go to the @Osmo_com Twitter handle right now. Check the pinned tweet. There's details there on how to win one of 10 free months of Osmo Plus we're giving away. I give 1 away every day, but 10, I can't match that. And I'd have to do 10 shows in 1 day, which we almost did today, but not quite. It's coming up soon, so go check it out now. They'll be giving those away. All you have to do is just reply. Don't have to do much. Like, retweet, and reply. The same thing we always do. And also check out the season-long projections. That's why we're doing it. We're doing full season-long NFL projections right from Osmo himself. So they're going to be as good as you can get out there. I'm actually giving them to my friends in my league so they know the same information I have, because I don't think it was fair to just leave them out in the cold. Yeah, go right now @Osmo_com, check the pinned tweet and get in on there. Of course, thank you as well to FantasyDraft, the home of Rake-free Daily Fantasy. Rake-free Daily Fantasy is here, but only on FantasyDraft. Now you can play your favorite contest rake-free on FantasyDraft, for 100% of the entry fees are paid to contest winners. For a limited time, FantasyDraft is offering a free 7-day trial on your first $1,000 in rake-free entries. So go to FantasyDraft.com right now and use that promo code AWESOMO for your free 7-day trial, $1,000 in rake-free entries. And thank you to FantasyDraft for supporting the show. Jake, what do you have coming on in the coming days here on the channel?
No, not necessarily me, but we do have WNBA content as well. I know some people really like playing WNBA. There's a 3-game slate that locks, I believe, in just under an hour. A little early to talk about the weekend, but Josh will have EPL stuff as well. And Tristan, I'm sure, will be pushing out some content here in the next couple days. Golf is kind of our next priority. So it locks tomorrow at 10:15 Eastern. You're going to want to check out Jason and Ben's Live Before Lock show tonight. That is at 9 Eastern, I believe. Of course, if you want to know and get notifications when they go live, just click the bell on the YouTube channel and you can see when we go live for any shows. But obviously awesome information from them, ownership projections, rankings, regular projections, all that stuff for golf. There are some absolutely massive tournaments for golf this week, so would suggest getting in there. I'm going to start building my lineups tonight as well.
Yeah, a lot of people have been doing really well with our golf content, headed up by Jason and Ben, doing a great job with all that stuff. So go check that out. And yeah, just keep your eyes peeled here. It'll be Jake. It's you and me tomorrow again, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so me and Jake will be back tomorrow for Live Before Locks. Thank you guys for watching. We appreciate each and every one of you for tuning in and turning us on, because we are here for you guys every single day. So we appreciate the support. Hit that like button before you go. We'll see you guys again soon. Good luck.